White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki got into a tense exchange with a Fox News reporter on Thursday over a White House statement praising the Taliban as flexible and businesslike for allowing an evacuation flight from Kabul to Doha with Americans on board. "You're saying the Taliban is businesslike and professional. Their interior minister has an FBI wanted poster. HES got a $10 million bounty on his head. What's the business?" Fox reporter Peter Doocy asked Psaki at her daily briefing. He held a copy of the FBI poster, displaying it just feet away from Psaki's podium. "We are here to celebrate the return of American citizens who wanted to leave Afghanistan, of legal permanent residents, of Afghans who fought by our side, to Qatar successfully on a Qatari Airlines flight," she replied. "In order to get those people out, we had to work with some members of the Taliban to press them and to work in a businesslike manner to get them out. A U.S. brokered deal with the Taliban enabled 30 Americans to escape Afghanistan on Thursday aboard an international flight carrying 200 passengers from Kabul airport to Qatar, the first such large-scale departure since U.S. and foreign forces concluded their frantic withdrawal at the end of August. A spokesperson for the White House National Security Council praised the militant group for allowing the flight to leave. "The Taliban have been cooperative in facilitating the departure of American citizens and lawful permanent residents on charter flights," spokeswoman Emily Horn said. "They have shown flexibility, and they have been businesslike and professional in our dealings with them in this effort. This is a positive first step." At the Thursday briefing, Doocy asked what it was a first step toward. "Towards getting additional people out who want to leave Afghanistan," Psaki finished before abruptly calling on another reporter. Afghanistan's new Interior Minister, Sirajuddin Haqqani, was announced amid a list of names the Taliban declared would now run the country's government. A number of people on the list are sanctioned by the United Nations over global terrorist threats, including Haqqani, whose father founded the Haqqani Network terror organization with close ties to the Taliban. Despite his high-profile new role, Haqqani is still among the FBI's most wanted men. His listing on the agency's website says he is wanted in connection to a number of terrorist attacks, including a January 2008 attack on a Kabul hotel that killed an American citizen and attacks on the U.S. military from across the Pakistan border. Secretary of State Antony Blinken blamed the Taliban for keeping flights in the Afghan city of Mazar-i-Sharif grounded just days earlier, before leaked communications surfaced that show the State Department hindered the takeoff. The White House's praise for the Taliban's conduct stands in stark contrast with reports it's gone back to its brutal ways reminiscent of the last time they led Afghanistan in the late 20th century. A top female police officer who was a high-ranking official in the ministry Haqqani now runs made a desperate plea for her life and is now on the run over fears of what the Taliban will do to her. Gulafroz Ebtekar, 32, was deputy head of criminal investigations in Kabul, and a prominent campaigner for women's rights under the overthrown government. The police high flyer and her family now face a death sentence unless she can escape, says a friend and mentor. It comes after Taliban militants reportedly shot and killed a pregnant policewoman in front of her husband and children in a door-to-door execution. Taliban spokesman Zabiullah Mujahid denied the group was involved in her death and dismissed it as being caused by personal enmity or something else. On Thursday, the Taliban had allowed the Qatar Airways flight to depart for Doha amid a bumpy coordination effort between the U.S. and Afghanistan's new rulers, including a days-long standoff over charter planes at another airport that left dozens of passengers stranded. A senior U.S. official, who spoke on condition of anonymity because he wasn't authorized to brief the media, said that two very senior Taliban officials had helped facilitate the departure. Irfan Popalzai, 12, among those boarding the flight with his mother and 5 brothers and sisters, said his family lives in Maryland. I am an Afghan, but you know I am from America and I am so excited to leave, the boy said before departing the country. The Taliban were pressed to allow the departures by U.S. Special Representative Zalmay Khalilzad, said an official, who spoke on the condition of anonymity on Thursday. Qatari Special Envoy Mutlaq bin Majid al-Qahtani said the flight marked a historic day as the airport was now operational again under the Taliban's control. Call it what you want, a charter or a commercial flight, everyone has tickets and boarding passes, al-Qahtani added, noting that another commercial flight would take off on Friday. Hopefully, life is becoming normal in Afghanistan. A foreign diplomat, likewise speaking on condition of anonymity because he wasn't authorized to brief the media, said another 200 foreigners, including Americans, would depart in the next couple of days. Planes chartered to carry people out of Afghanistan had been stuck at Mazar-i-Sharif International Airport, casting doubt on the Taliban's assurance that foreigners and Afghans would be allowed to leave the country. Some organizers of the flights also said the State Department was not doing enough to facilitate the departure. The criticism came after an email leak suggested that the agency prevented several private flights from leaving Afghanistan with U.S. citizens and Afghan allies on board. Secretary of State Antony Blinken on Wednesday went on a charm offensive, saying the Taliban was to blame for the standoff and calling on the militants to allow the charter flights to depart from Afghanistan. Blinken said the United States was doing everything in its power to get the flights off the ground, but the Taliban was not permitting the flights to depart. We've made clear to all parties, we've made clear to the Taliban that these charters need to be able to depart, Blinken said at a press conference in Germany. The remarks came as Blinken met with Afghan refugees at the Ramstein Air Base in Germany. He also met with German Foreign Minister Heiko Maas as the two counterparts discussed cooperation in efforts to process and resettle Afghan refugees. The two will hold a virtual 20-nation meeting on the crisis from the southwestern German U.S. air base. The administration still insists there are only around 100 Americans left to be evacuated, while volunteer groups leading private evacuation efforts and Republicans claim there are more like 500 U.S. citizens still trying to get out. 6 planes chartered to evacuate Americans and allies from Afghanistan were blocked from leaving by the Taliban, it emerged over the weekend. The State Department also refused to green-light privately chartered flights out of Afghanistan that could have evacuated U.S. citizens and Afghan special immigrant visa applicants, leaked emails reportedly show. The Department of Homeland Security says about 60,000 people have arrived in the U.S. since August 17 from Afghanistan as part of the evacuation formerly known as Operation Allies Welcome. DHS said in the latest updated released Wednesday that 17% of those arrivals are U.S. citizens and permanent residents who were in Afghanistan when the government there fell to the Taliban. The remaining 83% are a mix of people. They include those with special immigrant visas, for people who worked as interpreters or in some other capacity for the U.S. or NATO. There are also other visa holders as well as applicants for visas who have not yet completed their processing. The remainder are various types of vulnerable Afghans who would be threatened under the Taliban, such as women and human rights advocates. DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas says a small number of evacuees have been prevented from entering the U.S. through multi-layered security vetting, but he declined to provide specific numbers or provide details about the cases.